Scurrius the Rat King! Our first goal is to get the Scurrius spine, to make into any of the 3 bone weapons. To get our spine, we want to go to a private instance in the Varrock sewers. That will be the easiest way to fight the rat and fastest to get the spine drop. I am an Ironman with moderate stats. Let's get to the fun part, as I step into Scurrius' lair. I am equipped with mithril darts and void set from pest control. I am not using a ring or amulet to showcase having minimal gear. The first thing I must do when fighting Scurrius is to protect from melee as he does his tail swing. I can flick my prayer on and off fairly easy at this point. The only worry I have, currently, is to move when the rocks fall from the ceiling. In a private instance, Scurrius will be in Phase 1 till he is below 400 hit points. Phase 2 starts by Scurrius going to the piles of cheese along the border and eating the cheese. This heals him for either 5 hit points or 10 hit points. At this point, he can also randomly call in the 6 giant rats. When Scurrius does this, protection from melee is important. Each one of the giant rats can hit you through prayer as well. This damage can stack up quickly while trying to maneuver the falling rocks and flicking prayer. One thing to help this is to use a fast weapon. I suggest mithril darts, or better as seen here. It takes me a little over 5 minutes to kill him the first time. With darts, killing the giant rats is feasible because of the weapon speed. You can also maneuver in such a way to trap some of the giant rats behind Scurrius, which can help in the beginning when using darts. After getting a bone weapon, it is no problem to kill all the giant rats very quickly, because you can just spam, click. At this point of the fight, Scurrius is eating cheese and casting 2 abilities at me. When Scurrius attacks with range, you have plenty of time to change the prayer you have selected while the projectile is coming at you. Bolts of electricity, which is blue magical attack. The way to deal with it is by protection from magic. You will see Scurrius turn blue slightly in the middle for a short period, then will make a distinct sound. The flip side is Scurrius may shoot Flying Fur, which is a yellow range attack. It also has an independent, unique sound to be mindful of to help with prayer flicking. The way to deal with it is by protection from range. There is a combat achievement to not take any damage from falling bricks, the tail swipe, bolts of electricity, or flying fur shot. This is excellent practice in learning how to prayer flick between all 3 without it being too detrimental. Scurrius is a wonderful beginner to mid-game boss that is excellent for farming combat experience while being a decent moneymaker in the early game. I was getting about 200 to 300,000 gold per hour, high-ouching the rune drops. Phase 2 will last until Scurrius is at 150 hit points. At that point, Phase 3 starts. Scurrius will move to the middle of the room and no longer will be eating from the cheese piles or attacking melee. During this time, you will need to either protect from range or protection from magic to withstand the ranged attacks. There is a decent chance in Phase 3, Scurrius will call upon the 6 giant rats to join him again. If Scurrius is low enough hit points, I just kill him and worry about the giant rats after. That discretion will be up to you. Also, you may notice that in the end of the fight, I don't hit all of my prayer flicks. That is okay in the private instances. Scurrius is not very accurate when it comes to range or magic attacks. Really, only Scurrius melee attacks should worry you in the private instance. As you see here, as soon as Scurrius hits 150 hit points, he goes into the middle of the room and starts to focus on ranged attacks. Within seconds, Scurrius calls his friends, aka the giant rats. This is again why a fast weapon is so important. This can delay the death of Scurrius and make the final phase more difficult than it needs to be. I make quick work of the giant rats, but decide to leave 1 on the back side. Scurrius follows that up with calling more giant rats, which is okay. I then get 2 giant rats stuck on the backside of him to make it easier, hopefully. Nope. He calls the giant rats for a 3rd time. This is about as hard as it gets in the private instance with Scurrius' final phase. Overall, he calls the giant rats 4 times and I trap 1 giant rat on the backside of him each time. After I kill Scurrius, I go right over to the cheese pile to get full health. It is a free full health every 10 minutes. This is all you have to do. There is an altar above the sewer to the northeast to recharge prayer. It is painfully slow at first, but once you get a Scurrius spine, everything changes. You will need to choose which way you would like to go. The rune mace is easy to get from the Champions Guild, making it, in my opinion, the cheapest and fastest bone weapon to build. The bone staff requires a battle staff along with 1,000 chaos runes. The upfront price of the chaos runes is a little bit shocking, but I assure you we'll get a ton of drops to High Alk, along with a bunch of runes from Scurrius. The third option is to get the bone bow. I believe the bone bow is the best weapon to make, but also the hardest. Getting a yew short bow is no small feat for an Ironman. I got my first yew short bow by killing angry barbarian spirits in the ancient cavern. This was rather difficult as a low level, but very manageable. I was able to do it solo. What is a rat bone weapon? Rat bone weapon is effective against all types of rats by adding 10 damage to the player's maximum hit, but only usable on rats. Additionally, this weapon has no attack cooldown when attacking the giant rats that Scurrius summons. That is why when you have a bone weapon, you can spam click all the rats real quick and move on to the next phase. Watching this back with a bone bow going back into a private instance with the same gear, just a weapon change is incredibly different. The first fight I killed Scurrius in just over 5.5 minutes. That is a long time to be prayer flicking back and forth. The second fight took 2 minutes, with the bone weapon adding 10 additional damage, along with the no attack cooldown on giant rats, makes quick work. Then we proceed and go into the public with the same gear set. All of Scurrius' stats are tripled in the public versus the private, making him hit harder and more commonly. As you will notice very quickly, fighting him in solo public with non-optimal gear is abysmal. If you are an Ironman and fight him in the public fighting area, you will also not receive any loot. So for all Ironman, stick to a private instance, unless in a group Ironman. You can work together to take down the Rat King in a fun early game boss. The bone bow makes quick work of the giant rats. Just 6 quick clicks, and they are done. The bone bow takes 1.8 seconds between each shot, or 3 ticks in-game. However, darts are a 2-tick weapon when throwing them rapidly at just 1.2 seconds between throws. In this instance, I am using adamantite arrows with the bone bow. I wanted to showcase using a less-than-ideal arrow and less-than-ideal darts. I wanted to make this video for the early game or mid-game Ironmen who are looking to spice up whatever RuneScape rabbit hole you are following. Hopefully my stats and gear can be fairly relatable when it comes to Ironman. Once you are able to get the bone staff, the cost to cast spells goes down dramatically because each cast is only 1 chaos rune or 90 gold if you want to buy them locally in Varrock at the rune shop. I tried hopping to a few different servers when I went to fight Scurrius on the public dungeon. I couldn't find anyone else fighting Scurrius. After I fight Scurrius for a short while in the public dungeon alone, I just give up. It feels pointless. I am doing hardly any damage, and it is taking a long time to do anything. I want to go check out Historian Aldo anyways. He is outside of the dungeon, just hardly on the north side, when you are going into the Scurrius lair. He mentions that he will accept a Scurrius spine and help you make a bone weapon if you have the items needed along with 50,000 gold. You need 35 fletching and the required materials along with a knife to do it yourself. If you are making the bone mace, you will be required to have 35 smithing along with the required materials and a hammer at an anvil. To make the bone staff, 35 crafting is required along with the required materials along with a chisel. The bone staff can hold 20,000 charges, but I never have put that many chaos runes into it. As far as profit goes, I think the bone bow is the most profitable to use. You use the least amount of food and are able to kill Scurrius very quickly. The bone mace requires no ammunition to use, which is a plus, but fighting him melee can be annoying. Scurrius moves abruptly at times. This causes your RuneScape character to also move with Scurrius. I have been hit by plenty of falling rocks to know. I like to just sit back and range him from a distance. I go to the Warriors Guild to buy the taters at 10 gold a pop for efficient food. Thank you all who took the time to watch the video. I hope it was informative on all things Scurrius. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment below.